I've always wondered, what if I take a solar panel, say a 100-watt one, how will it actually behave? It's not like I can just place it anywhere and magically gets exactly 100 watts. Can it even reach its rated power at all? If yes, what does it take? And what about shadows, clouds, rain, mirrors, additional cooling? How does it work through windows? Time to find out. I have a portable 120 watt panel, the Bluetti PV120. It's a good panel with some advantages over budget models. If this one performs poorly, then the rest will do poorly too. You'll see why a bit later. Can a solar panel reach its rated power? Yes. This 120 watt panel does deliver 120 watts. It's late October, cool weather around noon. According to data from the internet, the sun is at its highest point. That means that if I provide ideal conditions, then I can expect ideal results. Can a solar panel exceed its rated power? Yeah, if I impose it. 121, 22, even 125 watts. The increase isn't huge, but the fact is, it's possible. There isn't some built-in limiter holding the output strictly at 120 watts. So on particular sunny days with a bit of effort, you can actually step over specifications. What's especially nice is that right now, exceeding the rated output didn't require any tricks like mirrors, forced cooling or anything like that. No, the panel has just been sitting in the asphalt backyard for 3 hours, and at one point it simply went over its specifications. For only a few seconds, but still. People will definitely ask about this little screen on the side. That's the app for the Bluetti EB3A power station. How does the angle to the sun affect charging speed? Even now it's clear, it makes a huge difference. Just moments ago, under the exact same conditions, we were seeing 120 watts, and now it's nowhere near as good. The only thing that changed was the angle to the sun, so if I leave everything as it is, watts are basically gonna lie on the ground. It's late October, close to noon. According to data from the internet, the sun is only about 26.5 degrees above the horizon, pretty low. In theory, the best result should come from pointing the panel directly at the sun, about 65 degrees. Let's test it. I'll change the tilt in steps of roughly 15 degrees. With just a small lift, the output jumps to 70 watts. The panel basically demands a better angle. Every adjustment has a noticeable effect. Look, another 15 degrees tilt pushes the output up to 90 watts. The next step isn't as dramatic, just plus 5 watts. At roughly 60 degrees tilt, we break into triple digits, 104 watts. Then I fine-tune the angle by about 5 to 10 degrees to get closer to ideal, and now we hit 109 watts. The angle plays a significant role. Even a slight tilt towards the sun is enough to reap most of the benefits. In my case, the very first 15 degrees adjustment boosted the output by 40%. That means that at any time of the year except summer, it's better not to just toss the panel on the ground, but at least prop it up a bit towards the sun. It really makes a difference. Otherwise, your attempts of generating more energy falls flat. In summer, things are simpler. The sun is high, and even lying on the ground, the panel is already close to its optimal angle. I can imagine that in June you could get a decent result just by lying it down. But it's still not ideal for a number of reasons. Horizontal angle. Let's choose an easy route and go from the best position to the worst. A deviation of about 15 degrees only cost me 5 watts, not a big deal. At 30 degrees, the panel still holds output close to 100 watts with only a small loss in efficiency. At 45 degrees, we lose 15 watts. Surprisingly, even at 60 degrees, the drop is still just 15 watts, though in percentage terms, that's a bigger hit. Still, I expected much worse, since at that point, the sun is basically shining at the panel from the side. Okay, now it's definitely side lit. I don't see a big difference in behavior between vertical and horizontal tilt. Both show the same general pattern. That means, for now, any difference between them can be written off as margin of error. Although later in the video, you'll see that there are some secondary factors to play at. The takeaway from this test is very simple. The closer the panel is to being pointed directly at the sun, the better the results. With proper adjustment, you can boost efficiency by 2.5, even 3 times. Or more accurately, not lose that much efficiency just because of laziness. At the same time, you don't need to sit there with a protractor chasing the perfect angle. It's okay to just roughly face the panel towards the sun, that already gets you most of the way. You can even be off by 30 degrees and still get around 80% of the output. You'll never keep it perfectly aligned anyway, because after just 20 minutes your ideal setup will already be outdated simply because the sun moved across the sky. You'll get tired of running around the yard and moving the panel. I got tired. Look how much it shifted in just a couple of hours. Indirect sunlight. Shade. For me this is the most interesting part. The weather that day was like winter. Cloudy, the sun is low. Wait, where is the sun anyway? Ah, there it is. 0. Nothing. And the voltage is so low that the charge controller barely even registers that something is plugged in. The input indicator just blinks. Not good. Let's rewind a month back. Same spot but fewer clouds and occasionally a few rays break through. Now we are talking 17 watts. They didn't last long. Almost immediately I was back at 0. With one key difference. The input indicator stopped blinking. The power station knows a panel is connected, and that's great news. For some reason the built-in display can't show input below 12 watts, but the app can. I just didn't realize it right away. Another cloud rolls in. According to the app, 12 watts when we are in thin shadow, which got me thinking, if we are already in the shade, does it even matter where the panel is pointed, cause the light is diffused anyway? Or in other words, can you make a shadow inside a shadow? Yep, you can. Any extra obstacles drop the output so low that it's not even worth setting up the panel. What do you mean by not worth it? The power station itself consumes some power too. For the screen, Bluetooth, the processor, together it's about 2 watts, which means if the panel only providing 5 watts, you're actually storing just 3. And the bigger the power station, the higher the idle losses. What if the sun is nearby, just not shining on me directly? That means the person in the sunlight can charge just fine. And you won't. Here in the video with proper alignment, the sun gives me 110 watts. In the exact same spot, but without direct rays, it's 7. It's like 16 times worse, even though the rays are literally right next to me. So that means that from the panel's perspective, it's better to face the sun on a cloudy day than not to get the sun on a sunny one. That's a shame. My balcony faces the shady side. Direct rays only hit it for a couple of hours a day, the rest of the time they're just nearby, and I was hoping to get at least like 10% of claimed power. But no. Soon I'll move to real life tests, you'll see. How to improve performance in the shade. The biggest factor is the equipment, mainly the charge controller. In other words, the receiving side can drastically improve the efficiency of the producing side. There are 2 types, PWM, the simpler option, and MPPT, the better one. Under tricky conditions, or like weak sunlight, MPPT can deliver like 20 to 30% faster charging. You'll often find it in good power stations. Next in importance is panels coating. I'm not sure about stationary panels, but portable ones are usually split into budget models with PET coating and premium ones with ETFE. You can tell by touch, PET is smooth, while ETFE has crunchy, textured feel under your fingers. Mine is the second type. No surprise, given the price. So with good coating and an efficient controller, you'll see a big difference. Where I am getting 50 watts, a budget setup only manages around 35-40 watts. If I am getting 20 watts, budget setup will drop to something like 12. The harder the conditions, the bigger the gap between the two. Partial shade. Things get interesting when only part of the panel is covered. It seems like the power output drops almost hyperbolically, even minimal shading disproportionately slashes performance. Roughly speaking, every 1% of shaded area takes away like 3 to 4% of power. In real life, that could mean losing several watts just because a single leaf blocks the corner of your panel. But once you reach a certain level of shading, the drop slows down. Too bad it happens near the point where the panel stops producing energy at all. It is also clear that if half of the folding panel is covered by shade, it behaves as if the entire surface is in shade and almost no energy is produced. That's probably because the Blue Yeti PV120 and folding panels in general can only technically be called a single unit. In reality, it's more like 4 small panels combined into one system. And that introduces some quirks with how they work. For example, if one segment gets blocked, some panels will show 0 watts, because their segments are wired in series, like a cheap Christmas light. Turn off one bulb and the whole chain goes dark. Panels like Bluetooth TPU120 behave a little differently. It seems like they use a series parallel circuit, so you can block one element and still get at least some charge. But it suffers badly if shade falls on 2 segments at once. Like, really badly. You could cover just a couple of percent on 2 different elements and your output drops several times over. How does charging change through windows? A lot. Technically, the panel is capable of receiving a charge through glass, even if there's some loss due to reflection. And here it's not even clear what has a greater impact, the presence of glass or the simple shadow from the frame. But here what will happen in reality. The complex shape of window frame casts a shadow on several elements, and as we've seen before, for the panel, that's game over. The Bluetooth TPU120 is simply too large. Although you can notice a dependency on the angle of the window relative to the sun. The sharper the angle, the greater the loss. Not sure why you need that info. Maybe if I have a bigger window or a smaller panel, the results would be better, but this is all I have to work with. What else affects performance? Surface temperature. I really did my best to heat up the panel with a hairdryer. The thermal camera even picked up the attempt. For the whole 5 seconds, one spot got a few degrees hotter. But it looks like the ETFE coating is just too good at cooling the panel. It was 55 degrees before, it stayed 55 degrees after, and charging speed didn't change either. So instead, let's move in the other direction. Look, liquid cooling works not only in gaming PCs. Just 1 minute with a spray bottle dropped the panel's surface temperature by 20 degrees, down to a much more reasonable 33 degrees Celsius. The result came immediately, about plus 10% uplift in charging speed. I doubt anyone actually is going to walk around spraying their panel every half an hour just to squeeze an extra 10 watts. But here's another perspective. In summer, if you have a choice between placing your panel on grass or on asphalt, grass is better. The lower surface temperature will give you higher output. And here's yet another reason not to just throw the panel flat on the ground, but at least give it a slight tilt. That creates airflow behind the panel, helping cool it down further and produce more energy. Mirrors. In theory, a very interesting trick, because this way you can direct more rays onto the panel than its surface area normally receives, basically acting as a turbocharger on a car. Or so I thought. In practice, if the mirror isn't large enough, the only thing you'll achieve is the reputation of town madman running around in daylight with mirror in hand. The problem is, this creates uneven lighting on a portable panel, and as we've already seen, in such situations, the panel charges based on its weakest segment, basically ignoring all those extra light from the mirror. Now, if the mirror could illuminate the entire surface evenly, that would be worth discussing, but I don't have one that big. What I do have though is asphalt, grass, snow, other surfaces that reflect sunlight, acting as a shitty mirror. Unlike my proper mirror, the ground reflects worse, but more evenly. And as we've seen, for a portable panel, that's more important. So here's yet another reason to set it at an angle, instead of laying it flat on the ground. What about real life? That's where things get messy. It turns out it's impossible to keep everything perfectly stable. All you can really do is find a spot without shade and point the panel roughly towards the sun. After that, it's all up to nature, and this time-lapse shows it perfectly. At first it looks like a bright day, easily pulling over 100 watts. But the moment I unpause, a cloud drifts by, some haze rolls through, Venus tilts a little, Jupiter's spot shift, and suddenly, even in the middle of the day, the output can crash all the way down to 6 watts. It was 100 watts just a few moments ago. 6. In just over an hour, the power station's battery filled up by 37%. That's an average of 83 watts over 1 hour and 50 minutes, or 99 watt-hours total. For late October, not bad at all. In practical terms, that's enough energy for full charge of 16-inch MacBook or 2 typical office laptops. Same day, but later on, the picture is completely different. Shortly after noon, the wind brought in clouds, and soon after that the sun started setting fast. It's the end of the year, so days are short. The first half hour still held a decent pace, but then speed basically collapsed to zero. Let's take this point as the end of the test. After 2 cloudy hours I got 24% charge. That's an average of 30 watts. Good for charging 1.3 office laptops. That's it. Finally, I decided to measure those couple of hours of skewed crook sunlight that reached my balcony. No adjustment, I just hung the panel and let it charge whatever it could. And honestly, it did surprisingly well. On average about 60 watts, even with bad angle and evening sun. In 1.5 hours it added 27% to the power station. Enough for a full laptop charge, even more. Another day, over 3.5 hours, the average was a bit lower, about 47 watts. That was enough to fill station from 17 to 75% charge. From this video I was able to identify the key factors for good charging speed. A solar panel is called solar for a reason. No sun, no charge. For a decent result, it's enough to point the panel roughly towards the sun. You don't need the perfect angle, it will shift in a few minutes anyway. Most solar panels lose a lot of efficiency if even a small area gets shaded, but charging will continue. In cloudy weather you can safely divide the rated power by like 15 to 20, and that's with good equipment. You got a 100 watt panel, well, in the shade you can expect like 5 watts. At night, in rain or in snow, there will be no charge at all, unless you have lots of panels, in which case you might still get something. Equipment matters, especially the choice of controller. I hope this video was useful. Thank you for your support, likes and subscribes. My name is Roman, see you in the next video.